Welcome to Steam and Soul, the podcast where heat meets heart. Stories from saunas around the world, from silent sweat to loud laughers. This is where people connect, relax, and open up. Take a breath and let's dive in. Hello everyone and welcome back to episode number 20 of To Steam and Soul. And in this episode I had an amazing guest from Denmark, and his name is Anders Hage. He is a passionate sauna master since many years and doing a lot of things during his journey. He was sharing a lot of insights of his life and how he became sauna master, and this is what he is doing right now in Denmark. He's part of the Danish Sauna Association. He was founding Nordic Health Living, and he was part of the Gusmester education program, who was developed in Denmark to get to the Aufguss masters there better trainings and everything. And he has also a medicine background, and he's talked a lot about his medicine aspect during sessions, during sauna rituals, and he shared a lot of insights. So be curious, stay tuned, and I think it's a good time to slide into episode 20 of Steam and Soul. So enjoy. So welcome to a new episode of Steam and Soul. And today my guest is Anders Hage from Denmark. And I have to look it up because he is an internationally recognized sauna master, body-mind therapist, founder of Nordic Health Living, and he won the Danish Saunagus Championship 2015 and was several times in the VM in the top 8. And he created the Danish Gusmester education program. So we have a lot to talk, and I will really welcome Anders Hage today. Good to have you. Hey, Anders, good morning.
Thank you, Matthias, and it's very nice to be here. I've loved the podcast so far, so I'm very honored to take part. Thank you for inviting me.
It's a pleasure for me. So how's your day started? Where did we catch you? You are in Denmark, and where exactly?
I am, and I am based an hour and a half south of Copenhagen. And I live on a small farm with half an acre of land in a small community with 8 other people, my wife and my 2 children included.
Nice. That sounds really cool. And so who is Anders Hage? So I said a lot of things in the intro, but maybe I would give you the introduction about yourself. So what are you doing? And what's your profession? Tell us a bit about you.
So I ended up making a living as a sauna master now, but I have had a diverse history that has taken me from competition swimming in my early childhood to modern dance and ballet in my youth. And I was part of both international swimming competitions and later on a part of the government's modern school of contemporary dance. Where there's only every second year, there's 8 guys being allowed within a couple of hundred auditions. And in that way, I found I loved music, I loved movement. I was working through deep grief at the time. My father died early. We were living in France, so I've been living both in Denmark, France, Germany, and the UK for a while. So I speak those languages as well. And when I ended up in dance, I sort of found a way where I could express myself physically, but not use my words. There had been so many words, so much therapy already on the grief of my childhood. My parents also got divorced, and then they remarried 5 years later. And that's what sparked the whole journey to France. So my family has a diverse and complex history of love and grief and death and traveling, but also being independent and self-employed and looking for new opportunities. So that took me into eventually sales and corporatism, where I ended up being a youth investor and sitting in the board of the Danish Youth Shareholder Association, which is a part of the Master Shareholder Organization. And I sat there as a chairman for 4 years and sort of got to know how asset management, investment, tax planning, consultancy, business development, all of this worked. And then as 2008 happened and I sort of went bankrupt at the time and lost my apartment, and I totaled my Porsche in a drunken stupor. So I completely trashed everything and ended up homeless, moving back to my mother, and sort of really having a difficult time in my what was that, early 20s, mid 20s, only to start a new company focusing on functional cosmetics. Because I had learned that if you wanted to run an interesting business in the internet age, you needed a web shop, a cheap product, and sell it expensive with a good story. And that went on for a few years, but ended up in champagne and too many women and distractions. So in the middle of all of that, I sort of end up back on the floor, realizing I need something sustainable in my life. And I look back, and what I see is that the only constant has been sauna. And let me repeat the story, but in the sauna. So with that complex of a history, to look at it and looking in the rearview mirror, I discovered that the most constant in all of these chaotic points had been sauna. So let me explain the same story, but seen from a sauna perspective, which was as a swimmer, I discovered sauna as a part of the ritual before and after training. So I met with the guys before to warm up the body. And afterwards, there would either be smelling of piss or menthol crystals, because either the big swimmers, they were teasing us because we were the younger ones and they would piss on the oven. We were always the last in the whole swimming complex. Or somebody would have brought some peppermint to spray on the oven because it was a nice sensation. Nothing about Aufguss or rituals or any of that, just plain old good stinking swimming hall sauna. Then as a dancer, on the way to and from school, I would always pass by Christiania. And Christiania is sort of a staple in Danish tourism. It's an old sort of free city where cannabis has been sold and a lot of culture and art, and it's sort of been its own institution. But in the center of that, there is a bathhouse. And that bathhouse is still to this day the most authentic sweat you can get in Denmark, because it is the center around a small hippie community that has been flourishing, growing since the 70s. And the contact point for them has always been the sauna. So you will only meet the locals from Christiania, the true locals, in that bathhouse. And I was always driving to and from and past there to school. So when my body broke down, as it does when you're a dancer, sauna in the bathhouse was the way to recover. And later, when I became a consultant and started working in business and wore a suit every day and went to fancy restaurants and drove expensive cars, then the only way to recover my mind and all of that stress was in the sauna. So when everything sort of broke down for me mentally, physically, financially in the early tens, I discovered sauna once again because the Aufguss rituals were suddenly flourishing in its first wave of interest here in Denmark. And I discovered that you could do it on a regular basis. So I came back to the bathhouse, and since somewhere like 8, 9, 10, I started doing regular sessions there. And that then went on to do regular sessions at another bathhouse in Copenhagen called Sjællandsgadebad, where I started having weekly sessions, and we discovered the national championships. And then I participated in 14 in the Danish championships, ended up hitting the judge 3 times in the face, and therefore not continuing. We can go into that story. And then I swore on my life that I would come back the next year and win, and I did. Then I went traveling to Asia with the girl I thought I would marry, and then we came home divorced, and a whole new cycle of depression and evolution started. And that made me establish Nordic Health and Living together with my then frenemy, Marete. She was the only one who beat me and Henrik at the Danish championships back there when we did the Prince of Egypt theme. And then we went on to the playoffs and won the playoffs to big surprise for everybody, including ourselves, I imagine. And then we went on to perform greatly at the VM and became third. And therefore I'm a huge proponent, a huge pro activist for the playoffs, because 3 times in a row I managed to win it one way or the other, and then continue onwards to the VM and became top 8 in the world. So the losers final is a much higher quality of rituals than it is nationally. So having that extra step as a sauna master is just a really important way to mature both yourself, your skills, and your show. So 17, we did Prince of Egypt as a team, and in 18, I did the Perfume, which I still think is my best show, most intriguing show, and brings something completely different to the sauna world. I forgot my last ice ball in the 3rd round. So I had no points for smells in 3rd round. We can talk also about that shit. Then in
Please,
19
let's do it.
was Bow Rap, which was an evolution of a story that was done traditionally. And then at the playoffs, Lasse Eriksson told me I was boring and I had to change some shit because there was another guy who had better props from Italy, who then became a good friend, a good sauna friend. And he had a very similar show to mine. His props were just amazing and mine sucked ass. So having qualified for the finals, I decided on the same night to change everything to the next day. So I did new show, new music, new setup, everything. And then I brought a completely different experience the next day and went on to the VM. Then I decided that I didn't want to compete anymore because I could see the cost of it was a few 100,000 Danish kroner. And especially if you talk both in lost revenue, the 500 to 1,000 hours it costs to perform at a world-class level, including the fixed cost, the travel cost, the costume cost, the oil cost. And when there's no big spa to finance it and you have to do it as a private independent person, that's a big drawdown on your pocket, on everything. So there's a very nice talk and segment we can go into about how independent sauna masters survive in this environment that is increasingly favoring the big spas in many ways. I have the same total experience in big sauna as any one of the dudes that work in a big spa in 6 months. And I've been fighting for those hours for 10 years. And each hour, each hour costs me more than 1,000 kroner, if not more, to acquire, because I have to go somewhere else in the world to get it, and so on and so forth. So there's a nice segment to dive into there. And I said, I will come back when I have created a foundation. And that's when Corona hit and we faced bankruptcy and we could move out of our apartment within 3 months if nothing changed. So we decided to do online towel jams, online interviews, early podcasts. I did Lukas and Lasse and Pan and a few of the others. We did some inspirational waving classes, sweated out interviews, art of waving inspirationals, all sorts of things just to, keep busy in Corona. And it converted us from spa sauna to sauna tents. And in the sauna tent, you have a much more shamanistic, sweat lodge, intimate approach to the guests because they are right in your face. You cannot distract with big, wavy, flowy towels. You are right there around the fire and you have to guide people and hold the space. So that took a whole new development of how that soft spa sauna master becomes a true medicinal man, wise man, shaman around the fire. And then that established what is now the farm that I'm living on, where I wanted to do a sort of mini satama with mobile saunas in the garden and then bring people in for this intense kind of experience. And that went to shit, and we can dive into that. And now it brings us to 24, 25, and I'm a recently crowned Nordic champion of classic Aufguss. I'm back in the top 8 in the world after the modern classic VM. I'm pissed. Well, I'm not pissed. I'm very proud, but I'm also slightly disappointed, and there's a lot of things about the rules and how it's scored and how the judges provide feedback and whether if it's of any value at all. I haven't found any way that they specifically say this is what you can improve. There's something about the heat shower. There's some details we can go bitching and moaning into that. The last umbrella I'll tie before I also need to breathe is the big standardization, certification, education talk that every country has that ties into competition, organization, volunteering, compensation, pay plans, health. All of this that we are experiencing with sauna masters, with shitty shoulders and broken backs and burnouts in 2 years, and how passion goes to depression within a few years because of the framework that's around us at the moment. What's the total amount of heat hours you can do as a sauna master in a given day, week, month, year before your body breaks down? And I know my body has taken a huge punishment from the years I've had to struggle. Now I have a comfortable living, I have some insanely good agreements, and I have some very shitty agreements. But it's all made with passion, and it makes things go around. But I think there's a very important discussion that we all need to have as sauna masters on how we treat our bodies, and that we don't sell our passion for nothing. Because there is a price, and if it's not equalized in some kind of compensation, whether that be financial or any other material way, we will lose out.
Wow. There was so much into it. Thanks, first of all, for this. It was not an overview. It was a really nice
That was a total
guide to
brain
your
dump,
life. And also,
yeah.
and thanks also to be so honest. I really appreciate that. Thanks, really. And so, where should we start? There are so many on the bench. Maybe let's start with the actual one, the Modern Classic VM, where you get 7 players because it was last weekend in Livigno. It's a new competition, and help me. The idea is from the jury, as I know, to bring it back more to the roots, that you're not acting, so they consider completely acting part, that they're focusing on, like, you have a team, not a topic what you're acting, but like a team, you want to send a message. That was I was understanding. So think about what you want to create, and they are looking then at the audience. If you want to relax them, if people get relaxed, for example, or if you want to make it refreshing, that people are refreshed or something like that. And then, as you said, heat shower, brewing, oils, and the waving. And maybe first of all, how was it for you? I had the pleasure to see the championship in Infinite Zen for the Czech competition, and also after that, it was 2 hours discussion with the jury about the catalog, as you also said it a bit. So maybe let's start with your Aufguss. I'm really curious what you did. Maybe you can tell us a bit, how was the competition for you, and what did you do in your Aufguss in Livigno last week?
At any given competition or show right up to the deadline, I'm always faced with a decision. And the decision is, should I go more jury porn? Should I chase the points with everything I got? Or should I choose a passion show where I believe I show my soul? And I always choose showing my soul, and it always gets punished a little bit. And this is not a bitching or moaning. This is just reality. It will never be changed. There's no industry that has solved this issue. And it is always the clash between judging and art. And the art seeks to push boundaries, and judging seeks to define boundaries. And that means if you're pushing boundaries just a little bit, you will either be within the line or without the line. So I like that risk, and I love taking that risk, and I love even more being remembered than being evaluated. So while I do have an ambition of being number one, it doesn't compromise yet. It will have to if I need to realize my dream, I think, but it doesn't compromise the art in that shape and form. And I'd rather push the rules and allow the changes to happen over time because the judges were impressed or something new that they wanted to include. So to me, it's as much as an education of the jury as much as it is a risk. I decided to do an interpretation of my classic. Denmark is the country that has the classic competition for the longest time, 20 years going. And that's 10 to 12 minutes, no music, space holding, so you can talk as much as you like or as little as you like. But it's you, the towel, the oils, that's it. And you can hear every breath, every fart, every burp, every sweat, every clap, everything is visible. There's no hiding. You cannot show off with fancy towel and then they hide your bad footwork or your bad expression. Everything is seen. So I really like the purity of that. And that's why I competed in that back in 2015. And I was so proud of myself back then because I really made it work. And I did an interpretation on a royal theme. Our queen had a 75-year jubilee. So I interpreted some events, current events, and allowed a story about how different oils were used by the royals over time. And I thought I was going to go to the VM at that point because I was all excited about that because everybody was talking about the VM, but nobody had told me that there was no VM for classic. It was only for show. And I was like, but show is shit. Why would you dress up in costumes? I mean, I love dressing up in costumes, but why would you do that in a sauna? That is about, mental clarity, body presence, fixing injuries. That's just stupid. It's not the real craft. So I was a true Puritanist. But on my travels to Asia for 6 months, where me and my then girlfriend were traveling to 11 different countries and maturing as people, I got so much inspiration that when I got home, I was sure that I was going to do a show one day. And then that translated. So the classic, let me get on point. So the classic this year was about the history of sweat bathing. So a short introduction to every corner of the world that has a sweat ritual, like sweat lodges, yurts, hammams. They all trace back hundreds and thousands of years. They even predate, in some cases, temples. So in the Indus Valley, for example, 8,000 years ago, you find cities with bathhouses, but no temples. So there really is, as a community and as people, there is a tradition of sweat bathing that goes far beyond anything we can describe today. So I bring that in. And then in the second, we call on the origins of Aufguss. That's from Austria. I said Germany because it's debated which one is which. But I think after being smacked by Carolina and Daniel, that we all agreed that Austria perhaps is the originators of this one. And then lastly, I explained today with the global phenomenon of Aufguss and the different variations. My personal favorite is modern classic due to my being a former ballet dancer. And then I play my favorite track, Caruso, which for the last 10 years has served me as a healer and heart opener when I was sad. Waving with the towel. So it was executed almost flawlessly. You can always nitpick little details, but there was no mistakes in the sense that everything in the build-up was nice. You can argue the space holding, which the judges do, but I do talk in all 3 rounds. And those of us who did, me and Emma, came 7th and 6th. And everyone else on top did the classic 90-second introduction, 3 pieces of music. And in my humble opinion, and with big honor to all of them, they are my friends and I respect them a lot. But to me, that is a boring setup. I need to be drawn in and I need to be guided somewhat. And this is my classic upbringing. This is because I've done classic for so many years and been holding space without music. And I think it's cheating to use music that you can sort of hide your own stress or nervousness, and you don't actually have. They're talking about connecting with the audience, but what is connection? Is it just looking at people while you panically wave a lot of difficult moves, or is it actually giving and receiving energy or even words? So for this example, I was doing my introduction and I frankly, for some of my rituals, I don't like applause. I'm not there to be validated. This is not for my ego to get a big, great boost and then I can go home and feel great about myself. I'm there to provide medicine. So this breaks the concentration, it breaks the art that I'm bringing, and it also breaks their fucking perception because they're busy doing stuff instead of receiving. So I'm allowing and telling, here's my ritual. You don't need to clap, just sit back and relax. And everybody started clapping. And I was like, that's good, but we have to work on that understanding and interaction. And then everybody laughed and we went on our way. I believe that is expert space holding and expert guest handling. However, the critique I got on it was that it created the lack of connection. And the bits I've been able to pick out is that some people observed some of the guests shushing the other guests when they then tried to clap. So I created confusion, even with me saying, don't clap, and me underlining that that was not the right choice to clap, which meant that I've told them twice not to clap. And still some didn't get it. And I mean, you can plan for stupidity, and you can plan for ignorance, and you can plan for what it most likely is, what is lost in translation. Everybody's from a different country. I may be mumbling, stumbling, whatever. They have hay in their ears and they don't hear. So that was a critique point, and it is what it is. But I would like more clear definition on what they mean by interaction. Because to me, just looking out in the dark with a dark light script where you actually can't see people is not interaction. A brighter room where you have eye contact, we can see everybody and you engage with them, that is to me connection and connecting with an audience where there is perhaps even a banter. So I would like clarification on that. The second thing is a little too cold in the first round.
One question, Anders.
Yeah.
How did you separated your speech, or you said in every round something? What did you say, and how did you guide the people from in the other rounds? That would be curious for me because I never did this. I also do, if I'm doing an Aufguss, a speech or an introduction, let's say it like that, and then I do an outro and say, hey, let's go out, breathing, cool down and something like that. But I would be curious, how did you do that, the separation? Because this sounds, it makes sense if you're talking about that to get a connection, because then you're sitting there 40 minutes in silent and watching, observing something. But what did you do? That would be nice to hear.
So I planned the script ahead of time. I do a lot of brainstorming. This is my most classic Aufguss. The history of sweat bathing and what goes on in our bodies while we sweat is sort of a guest introduction when people have never experienced sauna before that I do. And it is, it's short and precise, and the story I just went through about the sweat bathing, that is the majority of the content. It's a bit shorter and a bit more refined, but the way that I find the timings of it is actually looking at my musical timeline and estimating the time it'll take me to pour, and then I do a fixed timeline, which then will allow me usually the 90 seconds in the beginning, 30 seconds before the second pouring. Then if it's a classic, I can use another 20 seconds after the pouring while the steam rises. And I can repeat in the third and the outro, which allows me 5 to 6 little pieces of 20 to 30 seconds without me stealing too much attention, and usually fitting in with the 3 to 4 minutes you want to use a piece of music. So you will want the dramatic curve to escalate throughout the 3 rounds, and then just add extra to the visuals that is already going on. So storytelling wise, you will need the main bit, sort of the interest. What is the hook? the hook here is the history of sweat bathing and its many different interpretations. And now we are doing this, the modern classic Aufguss ritual. Then I explain my oils and wish them good luck. Then I do my pouring, my waving. And as I finish my waving and the first music piece winds down, because I hate talking over music. That's the biggest mistake I believe sauna masters do, is that you have that mumbling over loud music and nobody hears anything. So I always take my music down in the script. I don't turn on the volume. I program it into the DMX. And then I also know I need to be sharp, because if I spend 2 words more than I have programmed for, then the music will start going up and the lights will start turning on, and then we are moving on. And that requires a tremendous amount of repetition. So I spent, from Friday and Saturday, I spent 8 hours in meditation, just earplugs, blindfolded, just going through the ritual, step by step by step by step by step.
Nice. Cool. Yeah, thanks for this explanation. So I think you wanted to start at a second point before I tell you my feedback, what I was observing in Infinite Zen, and then maybe we can discuss this as well. So curious to hear your second point. Go, please.
I forgot what my second point was now.
Okay, sorry then. How was your waving? How was your interpretation, or what is your interpretation of modern classic waving? Because this was like a big discussion. Some you remember told me, yeah, a pizza or an 8, if you make air with that, it's for me modern classic, and you can also switch the air in the cabin and something like that. How is your point of view on that? Because this is for me the undefined area at all, and I don't what means I don't understand it. I found it easy to define it and make it easier for people to understand. I was also confused that it's allowed to use a fan, honestly, because for me, a fan, but it's maybe only my point of view, is not part of a modern classic Aufguss. But correct me. So that would
Totally
be curious
agree.
how your opinion is about that. And then what did you do? So is this throw modern classic if you combine it, if with transitions, or it's some jury members said three throws in a row we don't take, but one is okay if you go back to classic. So what's your opinion about that?
Several. First of all, I'm, as a participant, continually frustrated 8 years into it, 10 years into it, that they still have not clarified or unified a language, which shows that none in the jury or the organization has the competence to do so. Otherwise, they would have done it, I'm sure. But describing movement, describing flow vocabulary, describing trick names, all of that is now being done by sauna masters. And it'll take some time before there's a full vocabulary, but the jury and the organization needs to listen to this now and start educating themselves, because instead of just doing X's and just doing parachutes, like we have so many names for it all. And Aufguss, for example, I love their work in trying to define it and bring out the stories behind the tricks, because that's really, I mean, we call the Isa from Isabel Heinefetter because she does a tail whip. But if it's in a different direction, it has a different name. You have the Heinefetter fade out throw, the one he always does where it looks like he's switching hands. I have Around the Sun, there's the Around the Moon, all of these names, and I love that, but that only labels it. It doesn't explain how you're using it. And most sauna masters do not learn the context in which what is used. So terms like continued turbulence, distributing air sent, but also taking care of the cold air, which is not only not to get the cold air on the customers, it's technically to get the cold air away from the floor. So you can bring more heat in the third round, which sometimes entails that the first round feels a bit colder and therefore needs to be stretched or double or triple poured before you actually have the right baseline. So I'm really lacking consistency and faster development on the vocabulary and how it's scored. And I believe forever the flashy. I have 3 main critiques on show, which is shouting is not acting, moving trash is not storytelling, and flashy towels is not character development. Meaning that just because you're talking loud doesn't mean you show an emotion. It doesn't mean you're angry, sad, happy, nothing. It just means you're loud. And there's too much of the, now I'm sad, now I'm happy. There's like shit acting.
Got your point. Yeah.
Moving trash, buying something off of Temu, or throwing two pieces of wood together and painting it in black and moving it from one end to the other end of the sauna like you're shooting something. That is not necessarily storytelling. That needs to be integrated into the arc. It needs to have relevance. There needs to be an integration of the prop that you're using. And if you're not trying, at least, to use it as a sauna prop, to have your gun be a spoon or have your towel be the wings of a plane or whatever it is, then you're really just moving trash. And lastly, just because you throw the towel 10 times doesn't mean you show the character that you are. You're not more Albert Einstein for 10 throws or more the Hunchback of Notre Dame because you are circling it under your knees 10 times. And no specific critique intended, just examples of how acting is mimics. It's doing facial expressions. It's staying in the same, and they did that really well, the Italians. Like they had a very nice acting going on, but you could push that so much further. So I'll stop that now.
No, it's really interesting.
On the rules would be nice.
Yeah. I think, as you said, also, I think the jury, if you talk to them, they said also that they want to get pushed by the sauna masters, and that the boundaries getting a bit pushed, and they open up new perspectives. And I think what a good point is, the catalog is developing. So jury is listening, and I really appreciate also after the competition in Czech Republic, they had like 2 hours discussion with the sauna masters. And this is, I think, a good point to have this exchange because you have different opinions, different educations also in the jury, everyone. Then you have new generation, you have like with the experienced generation of sauna masters. And what I found interesting was they had a discussion about pouring water on the oven before you put the ice ball. Is it necessary, yes or no? And it was interesting because I had 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago an education with Felix Reschke from my Roman about the oils level 1. And he told us, if you can hold your hand more than 2 seconds over the oven, it's not too hot. You don't have to pour before you put the ice ball first, because it's cool enough. You don't have to cool the stones down. And this was interesting that this discussion happened on this level. I didn't expect that, honestly. It was like an hour or something. And the sauna master said, no, it's not necessary. It depends on the heat on the oven. It's not general that you have to do it. And if you forgot it, you get like minus points, or not the highest points, let's say it like that. So what would you say about the way to pour water? Because I think you have a really high understanding of also the medicine background. So I'm really curious how you're saying that. What's your way to pour and how you're feeling it? Or maybe you have some tricks. Some people are raising up their hands to see how the heat is in the third row, to have a feeling a bit more, how much they have to pour. So what tips and tricks do you have on this, in opinion?
Well, if anybody knows anything about anything, they know Felix Reschke is God. And a Roman word is law. And I abide by that. I fully agree that if it's not needed, it's not needed. And there's a difference between being a day-to-day sauna master and a competition sauna master. And those two will never be fully integrated and should not. I will not do a competition Aufguss for any guests at all. It will always be modified a little bit. The speak, the oils on the day. Maybe I'll even change a piece of music to keep it fresh or relevant. But just repeating mindlessly shows on a day-to-day basis, I think is extremely boring. It will always be feeling into it. And this is where the medicine comes in. If you're really providing medicine, it's you as the master. And that's the master part. Otherwise, you're just a sauna, hangout, chill dude. The master means that you are understanding the tools you're using, and you're using them with intent. You don't even have to use it right. but you need to use it with intent. So you need to feel your stones. You need to have an understanding before you pour why you do that. And how much. So you don't just pour 1 spoon because today is Friday and every day and every ritual is 1 spoon. Like maybe today needs 1.5 spoon or just half a spoon because every day is different. Every temperature is different depending on how many guests is there. But in competition, you want to go full throttle as much as you can, as hard as you can, and look at it as easy as possible. And in terms of what defines a flavor of waving or pouring as either being right or wrong or classic versus modern. And to me, the overall argument is, does the sauna master do this to show off, masturbating with the towel? Or are they providing a transformational experience? Is this something I would pay money to go see? Is it something that I would see again and again? That to me is interesting, more so than if it was 1 or 3 throws. Jiri, who came third, he did 2 throws, he lost 1. There's debate whether the second one licked the guest or not. I did no throws and I had no mistakes, but I did not go very advanced. Everybody knows that I can do more, and I felt the beauty in what I did was the reservation, was the held back intensity and only showing flashes of greatness, so to speak, or advanced movements, just to show I can do it, but there's no point. There's no point in doing it. They even said so beforehand. There's no point for expert movements. Just give wind. So I did my waving from a thorough base, grounded through the floor all the time, through my feet. I did always wind, and only did flashy moves as transitions. So my feeling of it was flawless. And Lasse told me, I understand you're disappointed. I also had Harley Heller tell me once that he did a flawless Aufguss and why he didn't win. And I told him every stroke is different. Every intent is different. So it may look the same, but it feels different. Thank you very much. And he's right, but it's fucking annoying to hear.
Yeah, I agree. But okay, interesting. Are you using hot water, cold water, or how you how you are defining what type of water you are using? Is it also on the day, on the temperature, or?
So I wanted to go. We had a cold outside. There was a lot of underdrag to the wind. So pre-ritual, before the guests arrived, I did a top-down ventilation. I mean, I asked Marete, my wonderful helper and Nordic Health Living collaborator, to do that for me. And we argued whether we should do a pre-pour just to have, the best medium ventilation. So instead of an extremely cold floor and a hot top, the top down and the top down up just ventilates and evens out the room so it's smoother for the top rows. And I decided not to do the pre-pour, which would create sort of a steamy top, but a medium steam atmosphere. So the guests get in, and I chose 3 times actually not to top up the water or add that extra I could. And in terms of feedback, if I should take something truly too hot, that's the main thing. It was not hot enough. It could have been more. And that's true.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't do the pre-pour. I managed hot, cold bucket. So I have 10 liters of warm water, 5 liters of cold water in the end, which I opted not to throw. I did ice instead. Ice gives a slower evaporation and somewhat a sharper heat, whereas the warm water, which requires less energy to convert to steam, sort of gives a more thick and wet steam feeling. So I wanted to build the base on 2 warm buckets with ice and then spike it with ice and cold water in the end. And I should have stuck to my fucking plan. And maybe that's what annoys me the most now that I'm repeating it out loud is that you make a plan to follow it, and sometimes going with your gut feeling is definitely not the right thing to do. Stick to the fucking plan.
Yeah. Absolutely. But interesting. So to understand, pre-pouring means before the Aufguss. So because before the people go in, you put like a bit of water to have this
Yeah, we don't
exchange
talk
of
about
the.
that. We don't talk about that out
I
loud.
never. Okay, I got you. Okay,
But it is something
interesting.
that you can
Cool.
do, but it's not established method.
Mhm.
And most likely after this episode, there will be a rule against it, most likely. But
Okay.
but it is something that you can do. I mean, you can always adjust the room the way you want it before the guests come in. If you want to add water, if you want to add cold air, if you want to ventilate, that's all your choice. You're the one who's preparing the room. There's no rules for or against that. So
True.
the only thing here is not sharing all of your tips and tricks if you want to win the competition. But yes, that is one of the buttons that you could tune on, right?
Interesting. Thanks for sharing. One question, maybe you can answer that. I never asked the jury. How is it if you define your Aufguss like at a modern classic and you're taking 4 buckets into the sauna? Do you have to use all the 4 buckets? Or other question, do you get negative or minus points if you don't use them? Do you know that?
We've had a few answers along the road. What my understanding is today is that if you bring something you do not use, that draws down, especially if
Mhm.
it looks like a setup. So if you bring something and you bring it into attention, so you put it up on the table, everybody can see it, and it's sort of like 1, 2, 3,
Mhm.
fourth bucket, and then you go 1, 2, 3, nothing. Then that creates a sense of anticipation that is not then satisfied, and therefore it could draw
Okay.
down. If you have it under the table, nobody sees, nobody knows, nobody cares.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah, makes sense. Thanks for that. Okay.
But Pang,
Cool.
I must
Do you,
say, if Pang is there, especially Pang, he will go around and he will see everything you bring, and he will go afterwards also, and he will point out everything and make a mental note. So if Pang is there, please do not bring anything you do not use.
Yeah, that's true. He's observing everything in detail before. That's true. Maybe before we end up this topic, I want to ask you something about the Classic Cup in Denmark that you won this year. And I think Pang told me about that, and he's amazed about that and so proud that he had it. And he was telling me he wanted to push this a bit more. And then I think the middleway agreement was the Modern Classic Cup, what went out for the VM. What is I think you said a few words about it, but what is the concept about this? Maybe you can repeat the name. I forgot the cup name, Nordic Classic Cup, or what
So we
was the
have
name?
the Danish Classic and we have the Nordic Classic
The,
Meisterschaft now. And that is
okay.
bringing the Nordic countries together again, which is very nice. We've not done so since 2016 when we had Nordic show and team competitions. And the
Okay.
setup is as clean and as little or as strict a tool set as possible. Very few external influences. It's only about professionalism, which means the craft itself, how you handle the stove, how you handle spoon, bucket, water, sweat, and waving. The waving itself must be classic, so they obviously want to be impressed, but if it's not moving wind at all, there's no reason to do it. They do include pizzas and different one-handed variations for points and a bit of flaring and showmanship, but strictly parachutes and helicopters can do the trick. You have 10 to
Mhm.
12 minutes. You need three to four pourings and a heat shower. No
Mhm.
music and no costumes, but you need a nice regular uniform. But if you just do your
Mhm.
kilt and a
Mhm.
t-shirt, that's also fine. It's not what counts.
Okay. Mhm. Interesting. And you're using oils, or is it also allowed to use smokes, or is it also focused on only oils, or could you use infusions or something else, or how is that?
Actually, I can't remember. For a while, they just changed it in their hopefully also coming updates for next year. But at some point, you could use birch branches because that's so
Mm,
traditional sauna as possible.
mm,
You can also use fan for some part, but I don't remember smoke at all at any point. But I don't think that there's directly
mm,
points against it. But you are scored on the oils. However, there's no mandatory ice use because I think per capita, Denmark, perhaps Denmark is the country with the most sauna masters per capita. We have an extreme amount of winter bathers. They're all organized in smaller or bigger clubs. Some of them have 10,000 members. Some of them only have 100, but they all have sauna masters. And we have 150,000 of those or something. Not sauna masters, but winter bathers, and then organized in these
okay.
thousands of clubs all around the coastline. So we have a huge
Mm,
amount of sauna masters that are not in contact with the competition environment or the spa environment at all. They are in their own echo chambers and are doing amazingly within themselves. Um, but what's driving the trend or the new kind of rituals, also how the old style is interpreted, is the competitions, of course. Uh, but yeah, I love the classical setup and the cleanness of it.
that's really cool. That sounds really cool. I have to visit it one day. I think it's a good point maybe to switch, because you said you have a lot of sauna masters in Denmark about education. Because as I said at the beginning, you were part of the Gusmester education program, what you developed. Can you tell us a bit more? What is the concept or the association about? What's the target? Is there an official education for sauna master? In Germany, we have this Bademeister Ausbildung or education. So there's a part of it from the German Saunabund, but it's honestly old, so it's 40 years old. It's not really developed or something like that. So how is it in Denmark? And what's
So
your role also? As a please,
there's
also
two
talk about
sides
you.
to the
What are you
story.
doing? Or what?
There's two sides to the story. There's the sauna association story, and there's our journey and development. And in our journey, and I
Mm,
say our, it's Merete and I primarily, since 2017, has been a journey on how can you, as an independent, work as a sauna master, compete at a high level without killing yourself. So make a comfortable living. I had this power mantra from my early 20s when I was in Tony Robbins and startup communities and all of these personal development trainings, because I'm also a therapist on the side. I'm a certified sexologist. I do body treatments and have done so for 20 years. I'm a censor on different educations on sexology and body treatments and have that sort of as my
mm,
foundational understanding of body and mind. Um, but my business side kicked in, and my startup experience kicked in when we established Nordic Health and Living, because I could see that the sauna industry was only an infant, and compared to other industries, it would have to go by necessity through growth, expansion, standardization, certification, professionalism, maturity, increased pricing, increased expensive, increased popularity, and increased conflict, because that's what every industry goes through at any point, at any, you know, trajectory. It's the hero's journey. It's what we do. So it was very clear for me with my past experience that I could comfortably live in this industry for the next 20 years. And I saw Martin and Hannifed and Lucas and all of these guys, Rob as well, with the merchandise and the education. And that's like straight out of the internet startup playbook. And I thought, we'll establish Nordic Health and Living with 5 different segments. We'll do consultancy, we'll do events, we'll do education, we'll do retreats, and we'll do competition. And then we'll create a framework
mm,
where sauna masters are supported, developed, and matured with the help of the Danish Sauna Association. And I invited Kim, then the chairman to be, Henrik, and a handful of others, including Merete, around the table. And I said, let's fucking do this. I have a case here with proper revenue. There's a nice cake to share, but we all need to pull together. And Marete stayed. The rest found other ways to do what they wanted to do. And that sort of established the idea that education was potentially out there. And at the time, the Sauna Master Association, as with every country, this is not just a Danish problem. This is many countries experiencing the same kind of issue, is that the Sauna Association is a volunteer organization, and they have been running some of the courses. We had other people do courses in sauna before the Sauna Association, but that has sort of become their primary income, since the competitions usually are an expense. So with the growing popularity of sauna and the sauna masters doing better, we also needed to find another way to make a living than selling our time in sauna. Because, as we said earlier, there's only so many hours you can do a sauna in a day. And this is still up for debate, but our rule of thumb then became maximum 2 hours a day, maximum 2 days in a row, maximum 10 hours a week, and no more than 40 hours a month. But 40 hours is only a fourth of your 160 potential sellable hours if you have a 40-hour work week. And what are you going to do with the rest of your time? So that became massage and so on and so on. But education was obviously right there for the taking. So the members of the Sauna Association, meaning the sauna masters, started doing education and competing with the Sauna Association. That meant that prices came down, quality came down, everybody started arguing. And then we suggested back in 2018 that we create a collaboration with all of us, and the Sauna Association educates the sauna masters in doing courses, train the trainers, and then the Sauna Association would do a certification for everybody. So they would help us make money, and we would send customers to them. That's a fucking win-win scenario where everybody gets home healthy and happy. But 8 years into it, we have not been able to come to an agreement. I won't necessarily go into the details now. We could spend probably 10 podcasts just on that alone. But where we are now is that then we, because of that, established a Sauna Master conference every year. That is now in the 6th year. We have 50, 60 sauna masters coming for a 3-day conference where we share. We bring some of the international stars in. Carolina and Daniel has been there. Kasia and Michael has been there. Evelyn has been there. Barbara has been there. Sarah and we have had a lot of beautiful people and good close friends there over the years. And we've had to establish a competition organization for sauna masters, the Sauna Master Association, because we did not feel heard in the Sauna Association. They were not talking health. They were not talking pay. They were not talking hours. They were not talking contracts, or they were not doing courses on how to prepare for competition. I have not once received a call or support from the Danish Sauna Association saying, how can we help you represent us at the VM? It's always been, how can we tag along on what you're doing? Which is, I mean, I'm fucking paying membership. You're the one who's supposed to support me, not the other way around. Blah, 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 blah. There's a whole intricate local culture thing, and every country will have their own version of it. But it has all led to me now pulling my attention back to my own business, which is in Danish Gusmester Uddannelsen DK, and in the English version, saunamasteracademy.com, which is launching next year. So I'm going to do all the Danish material in English. And what we have arrived at, and this is what I'm really proud to introduce now, is that I see the industry in 4 steps. You have the Aufguss. The Aufguss, and this is also a language problem. We need to synchronize languages so everybody knows what they're talking about. A sauna master and a sauna master, depending on Germany, Italy, and the UK, is not the same. But an Aufguss master is as a hammam master and a banya master, a specialization or a specialized field or special ritual. So an Aufguss master knows how to do Aufguss. A sauna master knows how to master the sauna and do many different experiences in a sauna. A sauna specialist is one who has specialized in a special tradition, method, or competition. And a contrast therapist is one who uses all of that for transformational and trauma-informed work. It's all an extension of the same skill. It's all the same understanding of aromatherapy, thermodynamics, but it's an exploration and a growth of that skill and how you can take it from just learning 3 pourings and fancy waving and then doing completely transformational trauma-informed journeys for people. And I have the roadmap for that.
That's really interesting. It's really interesting. Thanks for sharing this. I never thought about a difference between Aufguss master and sauna master, honestly. It was for me the same, but it's a nice idea how you're sharing this difference. It makes sense if you talk about that.
It would also
so some questions about...
If I could tie one thing to that, it would allow everybody
Sure.
who's currently in it already, because the critique has been, well, if I have had my 2-day course, would I need to get a certification? No, there is a certification. So the employee, those who are paying and those who have paying guests, knows you know your skill. Right now, people has just showed up and they have still been alive when the course has ended, and then they get the diploma. There's no testing or examination or any kind of that. And a certification would allow that, but it would only be necessary for the commercial or professional part, which every industry has gone through. So everybody could choose where they wanted to be in that framework.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a good point, and I like to discuss this a bit more because you said it also in the beginning. Every country has, I think, this problem or the issue how to define standards and something. I know only Asia IT. I think for sure you also know their concept with the education, and I think they're spreading it to different countries, like Japan, Romania, and something like that. I really like their approach to have this defined and also have this exam where you have to show, and if you don't do classic in this, you are out, for example, because then it have a value, the certification or the diploma, as you said it. And what I'm observing, but please give me your opinion, that a lot of sauna masters, also maybe young and not so experienced sauna masters, are starting giving courses and telling me I'm a trainer and I'm giving something and doing certificates. But as you said, what is the value behind and who's taking care about the quality, about definitions? Because there is a lot of opinions in the world. As what I'm hearing, if I talk to different people, I get so many different opinions. And what I mostly see, especially at maybe the younger generation, it's not blaming or something, that the roots of the Aufguss, what I learned from Robert Heinevetter, Aufguss roots, everything, I'm really blessed for that I started with this. It's gone a bit lost at my point of view. And that's also like when you're talking about the medicine background, everything, there's so much more behind sauna and not only throwing the towel to make it a bit flat and easy. What do you think? What is the best way to develop this, or what should be next steps to increase the level of quality and also maybe have this definitions of standards, in this case, certifications, what else as this education part?
So when an Italian comes to Berlin and goes down to the local pizzeria and on the sign it says world's best pizzeria, there's a very big chance that the experience he'll have is shit. But locals will have this as their favorite Italian pizzeria because that is authentic Italian pizza, just not if you're Italian. And I think that example will carry through in all industries as a part of growth and popularity. And you will have a whole host of people that has never been introduced to sauna and that has never done sauna either as a practitioner or as a guest. And they only get introduced to it this way. And I think that's amazing. And I don't want to discourage that in any way. If you want to make a pizza, fucking make your pizza. No judgment. However, I'm a huge fan of craft, skill, perfectionism, beauty, quality. When I listen to music, I don't listen for genre. I don't listen for identity. I look for skill and expression. And it could be any genre. I rarely listen to the radio because I think it's shit. But give me some old guy down the harbor who's been fiddling with his guitar for 20 years and just sits there with his cigar in the mouth, and that's what he does. Like, that can be perfect moment, right? So I would love both standardization on education. I also really like what Isa is doing. Someone is gonna be first or best or biggest. One of these three is gonna win the game. Perhaps it's gonna be all three together. If you're looking at the diving world, the dancing world, the yoga world, you will have 2, 3 top organizations either fighting or competing for market share on standards. You have PADI and SSI, for example, as the two big ones for private B2C markets. And I think something already similarly shows up. If you go search PADI education roadmap, you will get sort of a big diagram on Google that looks very much like the beginning of an Roman introduction course where you have level 1, level 2, smoke, herbal, and so on. And we have a similar setup. The Sauna Master is a 20-hour online part and a 2-day intense course built together. The Certified Sauna Master is a 6 to 12 months course, depending on how fast you can get to the 7 modules that it is currently. That is around the business, the medicine, the rituals, the space holding, the safety and security, and the personal health of it all. So all of that will mature, and I think the best thing we can do is to continue advancing the conversation and hold on to the horse and enjoy the ride.
Yeah. Sometimes I ask you because the sauna VM is the common link for everyone. I'm not sure if maybe such an organization at one point have to combine all this thing, also the knowledge, because at the end it's coming all together at the Aufguss VM. All of them are participants or members, I don't know how to call. And I think you have different, I think, partners like Aufguss Roots, as you said, Nordic and Healthing, that what you're launching next year. So I think in combination, maybe bring it together at one point. Maybe this will be the future. We will see. We will be part of it, and we will watching.
Absolutely.
From the outside.
I think, though, if Aufguss VM and competition sauna world is not careful or clear about the vision for the future, we are going to be run over by someone else. And I can share with you what's happening in our industry, which I see happening in the UK, the US, and Australia as well, is that you have with popularity of sauna and cold plunging, you have a whole new faction of sauna masters that has no relationship to the sauna craft. They have no relationship to the sauna competition environment, and they sure as shit don't know what Aufguss VM is. But they have thousands of customers every month. Because they do a nice product around social sauna. They do sauna clubbing. They do relax meditations and combine it with fancy kombucha drinks and SoMe education, SoMe marketing. And they don't give a fuck. And right so, they should not. They are already having a good business. They're providing medicine for a lot of people. Why should they ever compete in the Aufguss VM? That makes no sense. It's just expenses. It's heartache. It's but I love it because of the friendship, the network, the experience, the growth, the education. But that's expensive. That's really expensive to maintain this hobby. So I think that if it's not done by us soon, then someone else is gonna pop up and just say this is how we're doing it, and that's how it's going to be, like Bill Gates did with DOS and Windows back in the day.
Yeah, I got your point. I think there's a lot of truth in it. Yeah. Interesting to see it from that. I was also interesting that you said there is sauna masters for competitions and like the day-to-day sauna masters. I think it could be also maybe a mix. But how do you see, because you said also at the beginning that it costs a lot, and I know, and that there are some terms that they're sponsoring their sauna masters with money, some not. And also that the point that you not really get paid for your art and for your work. I think I talked one day with Secret, and she said she's now started getting paid in South Tyrol if she get invited or something. And I think that's a really good development. But the problem is not everyone is doing the same. And I think a lot of people, especially at the beginning, I was this year first time in Erding for the Sauna Fest. And sure, you also want to be there to have a chance to maybe get a name or something like that, or not famous, but you know what I mean, because
Yeah.
it's also a
More grief,
competitive
more.
network at the moment. And it's raising, it's getting more and more. So, I mean, I started 1 year ago, and what I'm seeing, how many people started with me. And since that, it's amazing. So there's so many potential in this, what I would say, and I'm seeing. But how, maybe you can go a bit in detail how you see this difference, starting with competing sauna master and day to day. What is your explanation or the background, your thoughts that you have to that?
So, I would say out of those competing, 95% of them are employed in a big spa. It also says in the rule you need to be. So that's pretty understandable. But there's just some of us that are not. And we have been able to slip through that keyhole, which is perfect. But I think we need a clear rule change on that and specification. And the competing sauna master employed in a big spa will be encouraged by their own team because the spa receives a lot of marketing potential through that engagement, and it doesn't necessarily cost them a lot because they are already, the sauna is open, it's part of the job, it's what we do, yada yada yada. It's sort of, there's a whole production line of that. Somebody does the music, somebody does the line, somebody does the costume, somebody does the requisites, the props, and as an independent, you need to do all of these individual steps on your own, which means that on a much higher level, you need multi-skilling. You need to be able to program music, program lights, and you need your aromatherapy and your understanding. So your base education of creating an experience needs to be very good, or you need to know somebody that can help you. And luckily, that's the fruit of our network and our family, sauna family, is that everybody's willing to help everybody most of the time, right? And I've always enjoyed that exchange of ideas and knowledge and friendship and love, always. And that is the reason why I compete today, is to come out and meet my friends again, which was the best about the Modern Classic, to see all of my old homies and hang out for a weekend. That's amazing. And that's the reason to do it, in my opinion. But the difference between tailoring something so specific for judging and then doing it as a day-to-day, where you have to do it 6 times in a day, or as I do it myself for full moon or new moon, 2.5 hours straight, 5 rituals, one after the other. And that's a tough day at work, doing 5 rituals with 40 or 80 people. That's that's a different way of approaching. How do you survive? How do you manage your heat? How do you drink? How do you cool down? How do you sleep? All of this is very important for a day-to-day sauna master. If you're strictly doing competition, it's more planning, strategizing, training, staying disciplined, sticking to the plan.
Mhm. Mm. That's true. That's true. Um, what I want to say? You said at the beginning something that really fits to that, but I've lost the thought. Give me a second. I hope I get it back. Yeah, you said also that the chances, like you said, you had to travel to bigger saunas to get this experience to do for the show, bigger saunas. So it's also, if you look at the map, there are not so many terms that have really big saunas where you have these opportunities. You have some Netherlands and Poland, maybe in Finland, and 2 in Germany. And I'm not sure how big the saunas in Denmark are in the Nordic way. I was never been there. I have no clue, but I could imagine it's more big, small, like the UK after Portland. I think the biggest sauna are 50 people.
Yeah.
So there are also different levels. Think about you're in the UK competing national 150, and then you go to Verona 350. I mean, it's scaled by 7. It's a bit different, and especially this is harder. And but is it also not part of the game that the sauna master have to adjust everything to every cabin that he's renting in? Makes this not also a good sauna master? I'm not sure how it with competing. It's I think a different world, but from the day to day, I think it's easier to adjust compared to competing. Would you agree?
I 100% agree. And I can tell you an example. At the Danish Championships, I came third. And the judges gave me some feedback, and one of them was, they knew I could do better. I always hate that remark, because what we're judging is today. Was I better than the others today? Not whether I could do better tomorrow or did so yesterday. That besides the point. Fast forward 8 weeks, we are in a different cabin. Nobody has had time to train in that particular cabin. Everybody's fresh off the bat. And I win the competition, and those who came first and second are not even in the finals. So the adaptation to a different capping, knowing what to look for, knowing how to calculate steps. So one cap-in was 1 minute around, another cap-in was 1:30. So you need to be able to adjust that in your mind to your music, knowing your music well enough that you don't need to rehearse a lot. You know where the ventilation is, you feel the airflow, you do the travel of the scent, so you know how to act and counteract the way that the scent flows naturally. And all of that obviously comes with experience and education, and sure, that is a beautiful part of the competition circuit, that you get to work with different saunas. However, on the budget, I have 3 different shows for all of my competition shows. I have the small version, I have the playoff medium version, and I have the big cabin version for VM.
Okay.
So for my Bohemian Rhapsody, I have 3 different pianos that sprays water. One sprays a little water, one sprays more water, and the last one is technically just a flat piano with a huge water hose.
That's a nice approach, really nice. But we will come back to the Aufguss show, because I have a lot of questions about your shows and how you're developing them. But let's finish this one maybe first. It's really interesting. Do you think it's getting to this point that sauna masters are getting paid and paid more in the future? Or do you think there is some necessity that, I don't know, people have to be a bit more strict? Or what is what's the best approach to come to this like target that you get paid for your art, as especially the high class, the VM top 8, or I don't know, not everyone, but like really the top sauna masters who really spending their life and passion for this.
But here's the truth, and this is going to be a bit ugly. And I'm not trying to offend anyone. Au contraire, I really love what everybody stands for and brings to the table. But even some of the world-class top sauna masters have nothing to sell. So even they may have been training this one ritual that looks perfection for 12.5 minutes. When you are employing them on a weekly basis, what do they have besides that one ritual? What do they actually know? What does their personality actually carry? What is the medicine that they actually bring? Why should I, as a client, come back day after day, week after week, looking at this shit? Like, how many times can you see Columbus or the Twin Towers or even Bo Rap or the Perfume or any kind of show? I mean, how often do you want to see that? Once. The second time, it's already boring. Why? Because essentially, it's a boring show. So that doesn't mean it's not a fantastic show, not a great show, that it didn't cost a lot of effort and sweat and money. But as a paying client, when I've seen what the fuck are they called? Any movie, Avengers. When I've seen Avengers once, how many times am I going to go back to the cinema and see it again? None. So how does a sauna master become relevant? How does a sauna master actually provide something to sell that's more than just that one thing that made me famous? And this is where I think most sauna masters overlook all of the opportunity and importance of education. That it's not about that one ritual. It's about having, like Bogdan, who hasn't won competitions, but he has a very nice flow academy and he has his pants, and he's going to make a good living off of that without having to do good in competition ever. He's even stealing some time on the waving classes here in Denmark and pushing in on our markets as he is otherwise, you know. And you have Heine Fedder and Lukas and Rob with their web shops, with their education. And this is not what I want for a sauna master necessarily, because not everybody can sell pants. Not everybody wants to run a web shop. So my ambition personally has been, how can a sauna master make a healthy living? And the way that I found out to do it was to avoid working with the big spas, because they're not willing to share economy. They weren't. It's getting better now. We'll get back to that with the Eliza deal. But there's that sauna tent, a sauna master who has a tent fitting 10 to 15 people in a smaller car can make a very healthy living by just doing it 3 times a week with European pricing. So having 10 to 15 guests for 2 hours in a private home in their garden will take you a day to set up, but you can sell each ticket at anywhere between 50 and 100 euros a piece, and you can do that 3 times a week without destroying yourself. That totals out to a nice monthly revenue, and you still have time left over to catch more money if you want a second job, or build on perhaps your web shop or your future merchandise off of that. But there's no expenses unless there's income with that kind of business model. And if you wanted to grow upon that, having a mobile sauna for 20 or 25 people in your backyard, that could make you a very healthy living, even allowing you to employ a team of 2, 3, 4, 5 sauna masters and friends helping you out, growing a small community of you don't need more than 500 to 1,000 people. So mobile sauna tents, this is a reliable way for a sauna master to make a living. Big spas will always be hourly pay. You will be selling your time for money, and essentially it's not going to be worth it.
Yeah, interesting. Is it also because I was in Estonia at this time? It was the first time I was in, like, say, Scandinavia, the Nordic area, and they have also a lot of like this parks, the sauna parks, or these communities where they have this cabin saunas. You can be at the ocean close and have this sauna. I really like this concept. In Germany, you don't really have this, honestly. I also know in America it's booming, this social sauna clubs and everything. And I really like the approach because, as you said, you need like a community, and then you can offer rituals. Where did your calculation or the recommendations coming from that 3 days a week with rituals, 2.5 hours to take care about your body? Is it like studies, or where this knowledge or recommendations are coming from? That would be curious for me.
Mostly experience. So we've been tracking heart rate and somewhat mineral levels and things along the way, but mainly it's been how stressed do I feel and how fucked up am my body. And in the times where we've been above 15 hours a week, we've had a tough time. It's eczema, it's dry skin, it's muscles and inflammation, it's bad digestion, just general dryness, but also fungus in the nails, in the skin, by being in too much wet clothes for too long, too much soap, all of these things, too much essential oils, all of that. When you exceed these 15 hours a week, then that becomes quickly a problem. And most people don't realize this until it's way too late. And neither did we. I mean, I have injuries on both hands and feet with eczema and fungi because of this. And I'm running cases with the insurance company to get some of those healing costs covered.
Okay, that's interesting. That's really interesting. So that's also, as it's not only like the movements, that is it also like that you're looking, recommending what type of towel you're using, or also like what I was experienced when I was starting, that I have to train my body. So I had to start with yoga, and like Lukas gave me the advice because my food and body combination work was so shit. And if you don't move, as if you're not flexible enough, you could not do the movements so that your body can relax at some points, for
Yeah.
example. And then he recommended me start with Tai Chi to get this bit flow and something. And that I had to train my body first to get a better sauna master, especially the flexibility was killing me at the beginning.
Yeah.
And I was so tired. And I feel this year, the first time when I was in Erding, the cabins were new for me. I have to do a lot of things above the shoulder on this area and could not swing it down like what Robert told me and everything to get this relaxation. And I was, after 3 days, I was done. I was really done. I didn't expect it. I had a lot of fun for sure. And the adrenaline and everything is kicking and pushing.
Yeah.
But after the 3 days, I needed a week, like no sauna. It was, and when I felt it the first time, it was okay, respect. And then think about people on a different level do this more today. Amazing. Also how? And I think it's an important point that you're talking about and what you're telling the people, because this, what you're saying, not a lot of people know and have this understanding what they are doing with their body and everything. And this was really eye-opening for me, also to feel it,
Yeah.
how tough it is.
There are three main points within the sauna master health discussion that is not mentioned enough. It's the minerals, it's the sleep, and it's the movement styles. And when we're talking about sleep, out of 8 hours, it's the last two, meaning 7 and 8, that gives you the minerals. 1 to 6 does not give you minerals. So if you're only sleeping 5, 6, or up to 7 hours, you won't get complete nutrition or mineral satisfaction back in your body. That is 7 and 8 hours you need there. And so if you're not eating food supplements somewhat, then your body very fast over time is going to drain its minerals out of your body, which is going to make your cells more difficult to heal, and it's going to make nutrition more difficult to be taken into your body. And that obviously worsens the situation over time. When you combine that with heavy exercise, we are talking peak exercise that only extreme athletes go through, with beats per minute above 180 towards 200. And people don't realize this because they're having fun. They're having a good time. So they don't actually realize that their heart is pounding 200 beats per minute and they're doing heavy lifting 1,000 times a kilo in 10 minutes. That's a lot of weight on your shoulders, moving a ton in 10 minutes. You do it a kilo at a time with a smile, but it's still a ton in the body. And then you do 2 towels. That's 2 tons, so on and so forth. And when there's no prior framework to put movement on, such as Tai Chi, dance, yoga, whatever, anything that allows you some kind of balance, straight posture, strong core, and that you understand that you do effort, relax, 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 effort, relax, relax, effort, relax, relax, that it's not force, because you get that sort of real stiffness in your neck and in your shoulder. Whereas if you really just think about momentum and timing more than speed and force, it's about understanding that dynamic of weight and rotation and timing, and getting the right timings more than forcing through. And that's going to help you relax your chest area. Good nasal breathing in through your nose, down into your stomach, expand below your navel, get that sort of rhythm, slow and deep, even though if you're moving fast.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I have two questions because I'm interested that with the nutritions, with the sleep, I never heard about it. So thanks for this insights. It's really interesting to hear. What I'm doing when I'm doing my shift at my sauna, it's a mini job. We do 5 Aufguss in 5 hours. So this is like the normal one. And what I'm using is electrolytes a lot because I have the feeling I need them and it's helping me to don't get dehydrated. And I'm drinking like 5 liters or something. But my question is, if it is good to do it during it or if it's better to do it before, then what would you recommend from a medicine perspective to the body?
So there is quite a lot of studies on electrolytes on the body and the way to optimally rehydrate. And you will get this from extreme runners. You will get it from athletes that does yes, both extreme runs, but also in hot
Mhm.
areas of the globe. And they used Tour de France actually recently. The what's this guy? Um, I forgot. Anyway, the winner, that he tripled his electrolyte dose. Usually they wouldn't recommend more than, what is it, 90 milligram an hour. Now they do 160 or 180 or something. And then you would ask, but milligrams of what? And usually it's salt and sugar. Um, and
Mhm.
the more carbohydrates, the more sugar, the faster the energy. Personally, I feel and I choose electrolytes without sugar, without coloring, and without artificial sweeteners. Something that is as close to uh, pure salt as possible. And most likely, I have Celtic salt, sprinkle a bit of lemon in it, and that's usually fine. If I'm in my naughty mood, I'll put a bit of juice into it. We have a nice Danish cranberry juice called Ribena, which adds a little bit of sugar into that.
Okay. Cool. And is drinking between, is it good? Because I was thinking if I'm drinking more, I'm sweating more. I'm not sure if this makes sense, but this thought I have because I'm sweating so much, for example, personally. And I was thinking, is it because I'm drinking too much so the body can express more? Then maybe I have to try it a bit less or make that sense or not?
It does, but it also makes sense what temperature the water is that you do drink. So similarly to the stones, um, when you're using cold water that gets into your body, it needs to heat up before you can digest it. So if you're drinking icy water, it'll need to bring the temperature from 0 to 37 before it can be digested, which means that your body is heating up to digest the water and you are drinking it to cool down, which creates a counter effect in your body. Your brain goes, gluk, 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 how refreshing. And your body goes, holy shit, this is cold. Let's heat it up. So you will be experiencing a mental calmness, but a bodily reaction that goes opposite to your goal. So what you would want in terms of techniques, you would want to drink hot water, tea, for example, to cool down. And because it's hot, this will allow you to drink less. And since you cannot take up more than, is it 100 milliliters per 15 minutes or 25 minutes or something? So it's not a lot of water that you can actually take into your system. So if you have excess water, this is just going to be sweated out, peed out, and cleansed
Mm-hmm.
through your system. You're not technically going to get it as rehydration.
It's interesting. Yeah, I will try. I think this with the warm, it's like with the stones. If you're using hot water, it's easier for the stones to heat them up, to make them to steam. Interesting. Thanks for this insights, this tips. It's really, really nice. And maybe a last point from me, maybe you have an opinion about it. When I was at the course with Felix in Berdegarten Alpenstock, there was one customer because I have the problem that I'm getting exhausted by the breath at some point, especially if it's getting a bit more dynamic and something. And then the customer came to me and said, hey, really nice what you did. But I saw, because she is a breath technique assistant or something, that your breath is not correct. So I'm breathing too deep and not in the side. And I think this is also a really important part, the breathing, because if I'm getting hectic and maybe I'm a bit nervous in the sauna and something like that, my breathing is killing me. And this is, I think, as this thought, or the eye-opening thought she gave to me, that makes so much sense. And now I try to learn to breathe correctly. It sounds weird, but I think this, I hope it's a key to success, because this is something, the condition in the sauna, it's still something that limit me a bit, honestly. So, and I'm not sure how your experience is with the brief or something, or maybe you have some tips or some feedback or recommendations, but this was for me really interesting and eye-opening, that the brief is more important, and never was thinking about breathing before.
So both as a swimmer and as a dancer, balance and breath is the essential part to be aware of, because that's what's gonna make it look easy. When you control your breath and you have both of your feet planted firmly in your ground, this is where it looks like you have all the energy in the world, and where you can perform at a high level, but make it look easy. And it's so easy to get thrown out of that flow zone where you are focused, you're present, and you have a calm breathing, even though that you are moving. And if movement like Tai Chi, yoga, or dance would be a good area to improve as a sauna master, then any kind of breathing work, deeper breathing techniques would be a second. Because it was going to allow you to also use what is, in my opinion, a sauna master's superpower, which is that we can go from, oh, can you get the balls? Yes, sir. You can have a towel. Oh, let me clean this. Oh, did you remember the towel? Is it already in there? The water bucket's okay. And the music got boom. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Anders, and this is a relaxing ritual. Like that switch from one state of being to another like that. And I think breathing there is the main essence of that. We have many ways to achieve our moment of presence as the ritual starts, but I really feel the beauty of a sauna master is multitasking and having all of these different medicines, the music, the sound, the light, the oils, the herbs, and then just go, and then you're there.
Yep, absolutely agree. I have nothing to add. What are your tips, or how did you improve that? You said so yoga, because in yoga you're also focusing on breathing. Tai Chi is similar. So is this the way you would recommend it, or is there something that you did some exercises at home? Or I don't know, maybe you have some small tips for our community here.
As a swimmer, breathing is extremely important. So I was well trained as a very young, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, in various breathing exercises and also breath holding. So learning to hold your breath and exercise your body without oxygen is a nice skill to have. I think if I should, and when I do recommend people to do something, is to take a breathwork course. There's day courses, weekend courses, and online courses, and they all offer something. And the more different breathing techniques and the more understanding you have on its importance and opportunity, the better you'll be, period. Both personally in your private life, but especially also as a sauna master.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for sharing that. Interesting topic. So now I think it's time to go maybe a bit back to your show Aufguss, because I'm curious what type of Aufguss did you won 2015, the Danish Championship? So please let me know, what did you do? And what I'm really interesting, because I was interviewing different people so far, and everyone have a different approach how to set up and show Aufguss. Some people start with the music, some people start with the idea. So that would be, maybe you can focus also a bit on that, how you developed this. So maybe you wake up and had the idea, I don't know. But yeah, maybe guide us a bit to your championship Aufguss 2015.
So it was called the Royal Ritual, if we're translating it. And the idea itself was an inspiration, or technically an overwhelming suggestion from my surroundings, because it was our Queen's 75-year jubilee. So the royals were all over media and blah, 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 blah. And when you want to do something for everybody, doing current events or something that everybody relates to is a nice, easy way for everybody to understand without too much explanation. So the royal ritual made sense. And then I went into the history books. As soon as I had my PEC, my title, then I started researching. So how can I associate oils, sauna, or the ritual to royalty in any which way? And obviously oils was the first way to start. So I found a handful of oils that had some kind of relationship to the royals. If I remember correctly, I did lavender something, then I did basil something, and in the end, I did fennel and peppermint. So the last one was the king's medicine because what's his face? The old European king that united the European Union, Algernon, well, whatever. So he was charging all
I
around
don't know.
Europe, and he planted fennel for his soldiers so they would have a nice digestion. So anywhere you would come in the king's garden at the time, you would find fennel for his soldiers so they would have a nice a nice digestion. And the peppermint itself is notorious for its air opening effects. So that became the king's medicine. Back in Egyptian times, there is a fable that when they were planting basil, you needed to swear profanity against high heavens for this holy herb to be seeded. And that was another way to bring in the royalty of the oils in Egyptian context. And so I had little stories for each oil. And I showed up in my bathrobe, which had a big, thick, fat neckline. So that looked very royal. And that was, is that a costume or not? A bathrobe? So it was definitely not defined in the rules. And all I did was arriving in my sauna master gear in my very royal bathrobe, taking it off and handing it over to my assistant. And I asked in advance whether that would be all right. And they said, well, we have no rules against it. So since it's a part technically of the sauna master uniform, a bathrobe, we'll allow it. But in honesty, it was a twist on the rules and a costume with a wow effect.
Mhm.
Or that's how I used it anyway.
Mhm.
And then I just executed a nice classic, no fancy moves, helicopters and X's and sideways flags and so on. But my space holding and my way to relate to the guests has always been a strength of mine.
Really cool. And then you went to the VM, and how did it went 2015 with this Aufguss at the VM?
That's the one that was a classic, and I thought I was going to go to the VM, but I didn't. And then I came back 2 years later doing the first actual show Aufguss, which was
Okay.
with Henrik at the time, and we did Prince of Egypt.
Okay. Cool. So that means team, because what I also saw that what you said, I think you won 3 times the playoffs or something, that you
Yeah.
always were successful on that. And what I'm looking also, I saw that a lot of people that won the playoffs got really successful in the VM.
Yeah.
I didn't know why. Maybe you have one more time to show and to develop your Aufguss. I'm not sure how
Exactly.
you develop your Aufguss from a national competition to playoffs and then to the VM. I don't know. Maybe this.
But having that extra competition in the middle of the year just really pushes the sauna master to be greater. And the ones that goes directly to the VM, they are already resting on their laurels because there's a long time to VM. And then suddenly 2 months or 1 month before, they start hurrying up and but going through playoffs means you have that extra opportunity, that one more time to perfect the show, to get feedback, to see the others, to learn, to grow. That has, to me, been really important and a great way to always outdo the one who actually won. So the one who came number 1 in Denmark usually came further behind because I had one more chance to get better. And I learned so much that made the difference.
Yeah, makes sense. So, but then, if you said the first show was the Egypt part, then share or guide us a bit through this Aufguss. And first of all, I have to double check or ask which Hendrik. I'm not sure if I know Hendrik.
So Henrik Baumkær is out at the moment. His latest performance was Prince Harry, and his wife did Meghan Markle. And what is that?
Oh,
3 years ago?
okay.
Was that in Satama, I think? And he came fourth, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
But
Okay.
Henrik Baumkær and I started out as teammates. That was my first show. He had done individual show in 16, and then we did the team together, and were strongly supported by Lisa Loha at the time and Pang helping us mature the show. We had a lot of different choices to make, but the one that bounded us together was the idea of the two brothers. We could sort of see ourselves in that. Yeah, so that felt like a nice story for two grown-up guys to relate to. Yeah.
And what was the show telling? So what was maybe let's go a bit inside the story. So you were two brothers, I got it. And
Yeah.
what did you do? And what was how was the acting this year's? How was acting part of 2017 of the VM? Is it the same what I'm seeing now because I was not there 10 years ago or
So I
8 years
actually
ago? So
think,
is it different?
I actually think that the shows now look more like our show back then than the shows back then did. So I think what Denmark and most of our sauna masters has been able to bring is more acting, more storytelling, more engaging stories. And the way that we portrayed it, I mean, it is a copy of the Disney movie, so it portrays them growing up together and how they become divided over the slave ownership, and how Moses then turns to the desert and brings back the people. So in the first
Okay.
round, we see the two princes. They are walking around the temple yards, and we'd made little pyramidic ice-shaped balls and colored them in red. And in the second round, you then see the sort of playing out of the mismatch between Ramses and Moses, and how Moses then becomes his true self and follows his calling and the word of God. So there's I have it on video. I should send it to you afterwards so you could have a look. But I'm sitting at
Sure.
the end, and Moses is walking around. I think we used 10 kilos of dry ice to create sort of a smoky effect around the floor. That gave cold feet, by the way. That was quite interesting. And then we have a big fight, so we started engaging in a towel fight that goes all the way around the oven, and ends up with me being killed, with Ramses being killed.
Cool. That sounds really nice. Yeah, you said it before that you in Denmark are really good storytellers. I saw Marete this year the first time, and I think someone showed me the Aufguss when she did the penguin, when she was dancing. And it went so deep to me. This is really, I will not say a different level. Maybe it's your style or it's your talent. As you guys, I mean, you and Marit and all the others, I think. But this was really special. Also, the Aufguss this year, I'm not sure if it was her husband or the team Aufguss she did. It was so nice. I loved the details they went in. And yeah, that was, I never heard the story before with the plane that landed in Greenland during 9/11. I never heard it. It was completely new, but I liked the idea because it was something that you don't expect. It was not like an easy and like the common story success or you lose and then so it was something special. And I really liked the dancing and the interaction with the people. Maybe this was the connecting point was extreme for me in a positive way.
Ah.
So, but maybe you have an answer. Where does this come from? Is it that you're pushing each other, or is it the background that you have as a dancer and maybe they have other backgrounds as actors? Or that's what I'm asking me a lot. Also, when I see this or saw this Aufguss this year.
I think there's something cultural in it, that that Denmark has a knack for storytelling. We have the whole H.C. Andersen, our queen for many years, was heavily involved in storytelling and arts, and we have had the Royal Ballet, and we've like that's a big pride in our culture that we have these theatrical, but also Feinschmecker. We have the whole gourmet dining, the cocktail scene is a big part internationally for Denmark. We've done very well and have some of the world's best chefs and restaurants and so on. So I think the finer things of life is a part of culture, and that translates into the way that we also show up in the different things we do. On a personal level, both me and Marete come from theater and musicals, and I've done theater since I was a little kid through Rudolf Steiner School, but also as a dancer. Marete is educated in London as a choreographer and movement specialist, and has Laban's movement analysis behind her. So we've all been doing somewhat semi or fully professional theater at one point or another, or know people who does it. As for Henrik and Josephine, who we grew up together with in this industry, we all rubbed up on each other. As far as I know, they don't particularly have any theatrical background, but maturing in the same environment, you all rub up on each other. And I know for Henrik's and mine, our collaboration was always filled with good brainstorming and pushing each other to find the right solutions, and never settling for less. And then we asked for a lot of feedback. So we tested our show up towards against a lot of people. We recorded it every time we made changes. We watched it back, and we kept on pounding on the show until it made sense.
Yeah, cool. And if you define a show, of course, are you setting it like with a hard timeline that you plan like every second? Also, that's what I'm seeing this year at the playoffs a lot, that you have like second sequence, then this and this happened. We are moving this and this. Is it like this? Does it like a choreography? Or I was expecting, because I did playoffs this year in team, I was stepping in and we had like a choreography. I think in team it makes maybe more sense than in a single. Maybe in a single you can be a bit more flexible on that. But what is your approach and what's your recommendation to maybe starters how to do it?
So you spoke about the different ways that a show can arrive. You can have like sort of an immediate inspiration by something, or you can have an ambition to tell a specific story, and you can then do a
Mhm.
personal story, or you can do a copy story. Nothing is
Mhm.
good or bad. It's just what is your preferred approach, and how are you motivated or inspired to work? And then finding the right tools. As a dancer, primarily, I identify as a dancer. To me, movement and music is the primary entrance point. So I most likely will
Mhm.
have as a song that I would like to be the highlight or the body of the ritual, and then I'll fit the story to it. Um,
Mhm.
for the perfume, I was looking and looking and looking and looking for inspiration. And then one day Netflix introduced the perfume, and I saw it again, and I was like, wow, this is it. It can be no other ritual than this. And I felt the same way with Bohemian Rhapsody. So once I decided, now I'm going to compete, then I went into research mode. What could it be? And finally,
Mhm.
I met it. I recognized it. What I'm looking for is something that's complex, something that's awkward, something that's heartbreaking or heart awakening. So I'm not looking for a particular storyline or particular character. It's more the meat and the bread of the story. Does it have something where I can be awkward or funny or weird, then that really appeals to
Mhm.
me. I like to crash beauty and awkwardness with each other.
Interesting. And then, like the acting part, is it naturally in you that you know, okay, you have this emotions, you want to send this message, and then you know what to do, or do you try it in the mirror, or how are you getting, especially the emotion and the acting? This is still a bit a secret of mine because I don't have any background, a theater or something like that, and a bit a shy guy on that, I think. But I want to go out of my comfort zone, and maybe you have some behind the scenes from you, for me, or for us.
So you're exactly right that in terms of doing team show, you'll need a second by second choreography. You can take out little bits and pieces where you do sort of personal flaring. So I do 10 seconds my own tricks, then my team partner does 10 seconds their own tricks. But the majority of the collaboration needs to be timed on the second. So as a dancer, we count music 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, or whatever the count is. So we know the full counting of all 15 minutes. And then we put in the framework of the Aufguss. It has a very defined timeline depending on the size of the oven. So we take the diagram of the sauna. We see the amount of meters. Then we measure it and put a copy sauna in our living room that measures the same amount of steps, and use couch and table and whatever you have as the sauna stove. And then you start working in the steps into the body. How many steps is it for a full round? When do we meet at a certain point? Do we switch? Do we turn? Do we spin? When do we throw? All of this, lay the highlights into it. And suddenly, or well, not suddenly, but over time, suddenly a pattern emerges. And then you start analyzing that pattern. Did we have in the first round, did we have everything that ticked the points? In the second round, everything that ticked the points? Did we have the dramatic twist between the second and the third round that leads to the conclusion and the climax together with the heat shower? So we sort of dot the theater and the acting together with the pouring. So it doesn't become me being the Hunchback of Notre Dame, and then I'm a sauna master, and then the Hunchback of Notre Dame, and then a sauna master. So the pouring becomes this, you are in character all the time. There's no shifting from one to the other. So you incorporate being a sauna master into the character. And this is what I think is the fun part, is taking something and then embodying it into the sauna master, and make them, the one and the same.
But how did you get into this role? I think it's not the easy part. Like Rennie told me, he's getting before his Aufguss 2 hours or something. He tried to get in the role. He defined the character, and then he's trying to get to not be the sauna master anymore, so to be like Notre Dame, the Glöckner, or what else. So how did you get into this one? As what's the approach from an artist at a theater or something? What's the secret? Because they have maybe methods to do this, or I don't know.
Days. And I really like that part of the talk also you had with Sidek about preparations for sauna. How do you go into mode? And for modern classic, for example, where I have not been able to train a lot, or not at all in that particular cabin, all my training needs to be mental visualization. So I picture the cabin, and then I log it into my mind. I count what one round is, and then I plan it out and write it out. So I know theoretically everything that goes on when it goes on. And then I think it together with the music. So I listen to the music again and again, and then I place my writing on the dots so that as much as I can, I embody the program. When I'm doing an actual character, I would use the same approach, visualization and meditation, but being in the ritual itself also switches on that side. So obviously defining the character, as René also explained, that what is the motivation behind this character? What is the emotion I want to bring out in each round? What is the dramatic twist? And we have a framework, sort of a template that we've developed over the years, where we fill in everything, what you need for props, water, amount, ice, oils, everything, but also the dramatical timeline. When does what happen? What emotion do we want the audience to have right now? And if it says angry, I'll do my very best. You know, it's about having the courage to be stupid and ugly and to fail. If you have fear of failure, there's no acting. You need to be ugly. You need to not be perfect in order to carry out the emotion, and that in itself will be authentic. People will like that. They'll be intrigued by that.
Yeah, I would agree. That's true. You have to be ugly and don't care. Don't care. I think that's important. Nice. Thanks so much for sharing this. That's so insane. So also the mentally part, a lot of also the experience when everyone tells me, like Robert is also doing in his courses, you're lying down 7 minutes and repeating the movements. And I think this creating the best routine, combining with training for sure. But I have a lot of respect also when Robert told me as he was thinking, like you said now, you don't know the cabin, but you imaginize what you have to do. But this is a level, wow. Also absolute respect for that, because I think this makes the difference. And this also yeah, go.
There are some good studies showing the effects of that. So there is an example, and I can't remember which school it was in the States. I think it was Harvard, but they had the basketball team, and they sent one half of the team home to meditate and visualize shooting 3-pointers. And then the other team trained hard the rest of the day. And then they compared scores and jump to the point. The ones who went home to visualize 3-pointers had a higher score of 3-pointers than those who trained. The explanation was those who trained, they both succeeded and failed, and they were exhausted from all of the training. Whereas those who went home to visualize, they succeeded and succeeded and succeeded and succeeded. So they came with high confidence and with a clear mental picture and fresh. The other ones came with a distorted mix between, am I good or not? Do I fail or not? Do I make it or not? And I'm also a bit tired. And the state where you come from mental clarity and are fresh is always better than exhausted and confused. So doing your mental preparation is by far the most important part.
That's a really good example, really nice one. Thanks for sharing that. And yeah, I think you're absolutely right. If you're not, like Robert said it, if you don't believe also that you can reach it, you will never reach it. So this is really something you have to push yourself. And I think for me, it's always to leave the comfort zone. When I was doing Satama playoffs this year, I had 3 weeks preparation. I mean, I know it would get shit, but we said we want to have fun, and we had fun. And this makes me so proud. It was not good. And I know the performance at the end, my conditions were bad and everything, but I take it as a learning, and I was so proud to spend the time with the people, and that makes the difference, I think. And I'm so happy that I did it, also if I'm knowing that we were last place with 100 points difference to the other, but that was not the point that mattered, honestly. And so I absolutely could imagine and really appreciate this insight to get. So thanks so much for sharing this. What I really would love to finally, depends how on your time, I have time, to talk about Nordic Aufguss. So I have no clue about Nordic Aufguss culture. I've never been there yet. I'm still talking with Kim to visit Denmark and also the other Scandinavian countries maybe. But how would you describe the Nordic Aufguss scene? Or because I know from Finland they don't have Aufguss really. What I'm knowing, it's starting right now. How is it in Denmark? Maybe specify on Denmark because you're from Denmark. Makes sense. So how's the Denmark Aufguss culture? How would you describe? And yeah.
So we have a complete revival of our sauna culture, and especially through the winter bathing scene, and now also the independent mobile sauna masters. And that gives us quite a unique environment, but also we have no tradition and culture for sweat bathing recent history. That goes back a long time. So back in the 60s, 70s, sauna was still a part of our houses, but it was mainly used as storage. And then after that, it was completely removed from new houses. So we have to go a long way back since we had a bathhouse culture where we as a people enjoyed hygiene and showering and saunaing together. Whereas in Norway and Sweden, that often has a bit harsher climate than we do, Private saunas are still extremely prevalent all over the place. And you have this bastu concept, which is family sauna, which reminds you of both Finnish and banya, but it's much more a community style with herbs and coziness, much more than a ritual as such.
Okay. And so that means, correct me if I didn't get it correct. So nowadays you don't have sauna at your house. So it was back in the days, it was common to have like a sauna at your house. Nowadays not. So it's going more to bathhouses. That means you're going especially to places to do sauna together or in a community, what you're saying. So is this correct, what I get?
Yes. So the current sauna environment, you have the traditional 10 spas, 10 big spa hotels. There has been a few add-ons over the last 5 to 10 years, but nothing spectacular, and definitely not anything focusing on big sauna or any kind of quality in that direction. But the independent sauna masters, mobile saunas, and social sauna like winter bathing has sprung up everywhere. So every coastal city has a sauna where people can go and sweat. It's all membership based. They have a huge waiting time. Most of them are closed for new members. Some of them are as big as 10, 15,000 members and have huge 100 people saunas, but it's private in that sense that it's closed off from the public and usually for the local community. So this creates a very personal sweat for most people. So a lot of people have a relationship to sauna. They just have no concept of the treatment part or the group experience part. It's more of a lifestyle and a necessary add-on to living somewhat in a colder, darker country where this is part of life.
Okay. And if you go to such a place, what type of a sauna would you see there? Is it like a normal Finnish sauna? Is it sauna with Aufguss, or is it like rituals? Because you talked also about new moon and full moon rituals. Maybe we can come later to that you explain a bit about that. So what type of rituals, Aufguss, whatever, is offering or would be offered in Denmark? What is common and what is maybe new?
So I think also as a way to differentiate oneself, just like the big spas, they have used competition to differentiate themselves and locality expressions. Like the Germans are good for something, the Italians are good for another thing, the Czechs are good for a second. So the independent sauna masters has also been branding themselves. I'm a holistic sauna master. I do Viking rituals. I do whatever. So everybody has been exploring many different things. My comments on that is that you can do conceptual Aufguss, such as a Zen Aufguss, beauty Aufguss, Viking Aufguss, but you can also do sauna master related events. So today it's Anders doing a herbal sauna. Tomorrow it's Merete doing a theater sauna. Both works well. Both elements are present in the Danish environment. We have done both in Nordic Health and Living. The most success we've had has been with the moon rituals, which we are also selling internationally with great success and have been at Eliza now for 4 years, every month doing either new moon or full moon or equinox. And there is a Danish model that everybody else thinks is crazy, but due to the nature of our spa environment, most Aufguss that started back in the early zeros, so 0, 2, 3, 4, they started having regular and professional Aufguss, but everybody came just for that. So instead of having just 1 Aufguss an hour or 3 Aufguss in a day, they started having 3 Aufgusses in 1 hour. So you have 3 Aufgusses in succession with 5 to 10 minutes break, and then you're done. That's it. Now you go home. So none of this relaxing and lounging for 10 hours where you have your lunch and your dinner and you're by the pool and you go to sauna and you go to spa like the Central European way. And that has now developed into a lot of different hotspots and social saunas that does 1 hour, 1.5 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours even. And then they do 3, 4, 5, 6 or 7 rituals in a row. Boom, 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 boom. And the setup for our moon ritual takes inspiration from Nordic shamanism, and we follow the astrology of the moon and the sun. So our events are closely aligned with the high times. We use crystals to store intentions that we get from Eliza. We use instruments, drumming, voice chanting, visualization, power breathing, screaming and shouting. We do cold exposure as a part of a mental reset. Every ritual has a predefined theme. So not the way it looks, but the way that your inner work should be carried out. So we introduce the evening's program and arrive in the body. We spend the second ritual on letting go of what doesn't serve a purpose. We spend the third being present with what is. So now that we have emptied the cup, we must understand what is left in our being. And then for the fourth ritual, we do a rain dance. And the rain dance is an ancient way to manifest a situation or circumstance where you embody that emotion right here, right now. So not rain in the future, not praying for rain, but dancing in the rain as if you're feeling it right now. And we use that to attract any situation. So whether you want new opportunities, new love, new things in your life, this is what you must attract into your attention and feel, and that we store in the crystals at the end of the ritual. And the last one is an appreciation where we say thanks to the ancestors, thanks to each other, thanks for the medicine, and we let it all go so that the universe can answer and we can receive.
Wow. To get it right, is it then, as you talked about 5 rituals, but it's one big ritual, or you chaptered it in 5
hours.
categories, but 2.5 hours. Wow. So that means, but it's not happening everything in the sauna, as is also part that you're going out, like you said, with cooling down in between, or is it really in the sauna 2.5 hours?
So at Eliza, there's different models tailored to different locations. So Eliza, we are 3 sauna masters doing it together. I have a team, me, Marete, and my brother, who is the core team. And then we have Jeppe Morbjerg and Rune Ackermann, who is our co-founders and core team support. And throughout the 2.5 hours, we are in and out every 15 to 20 minutes. So a ritual is typically between 15 to 20 minutes. And we always allow on the day for some inspiration and some intuition so it can stay fresh and relevant for all the guests.
How intense is this ritual for a customer? Because I'm asking why, because I had last year at the VM my first group ritual with Benoit as a Pirts ritual, and it was really nice. We went in the sauna, then we get together with holding our hands, going into a lake, going down, going up and screaming everything out and something. It was really, really nice. Also the connection, and it was an extreme mental refreshing for me. As I feel really like a baby in my mind, and I had this year then a one-on-one retreatment with Chris Eimann for 1 hour, and it was similar. And it's have a different, for me, a different deepness that you get in touch with the people. And I could imagine if you do this for 2.5 hours, I don't know how you feel then. Maybe you have to carry me home because I could not walk anymore because I'm so relaxed. Is it like that? Is this feeling correct? Or how would you describe the experience for a customer?
Absolutely. So each ritual is like, quote unquote, a regular Aufguss, 3 to 4 pourings and a heat shower at the end. And having 5 of those straight with increased intensity is tough. We have snacks, we have water, we guide people to move around in the sauna so they better level out their heat experience. We share what tips and tricks we can so they can better manage the heat throughout the ritual. But yes, it is activating all of our stress mechanisms. It's activating our feeling of being challenged and having to overcome this obstacle together. But it's also exactly that allows for the transformation to take place, that we both as a group can grow and can overcome these things, but also me suddenly realizing that it won't kill me just because it's uncomfortable. And that gives me some more confidence in who I am as a soul and as a being. And after having completed such a ritual, you will feel invigorated, although tired. So you understand that you've been working, but this is a healthy part of using one's energy.
Wow. Yeah, interesting. I have to make this experience one day. I have to, but that means you're going to Eliza once a month. Did I get you correct? Because I
Yes,
saw it on Eliza, but I was not sure who's doing nice. That's really cool. That's really cool. Do you have also like smoke saunas in Denmark? I was seeing the
no,
first one in Estonia. I'm not. It's not in Denmark. Okay. And
it's one
what
of the
about steam
only,
baths?
yeah, it's one of
No,
the
sorry.
only
Go for
sauna
it. So go for
experiences.
it.
Yeah, it's one of the only sauna experiences I have not had. It's a smoke sauna.
Okay.
I'm really, it's on my bucket list.
Okay. I can recommend it. It was nice. They did the ritual. I think it was 1.5 hours when you get covered with blankets. Then they were pouring water on you, cold or a bit warm and something. And I really liked the darkness there. You have a small window,
Mm.
only no watches and something. And this was also a really mind-opening because in every German sauna, sometimes the sauna master is turning the watch. But why? You don't want that people thinking about the time. But sometimes the small things that matters. It's really interesting. But if you never get confronted with this kind or the different perspectives, you will never think about it. It's the same with the breathing or something. So that
Mm.
was really interesting. But yeah, I can recommend it. Also be excited. It's a really nice experience, honestly. And just the smoke or the smell is really nice. And also the preparation. It's like not only go there, so also preparing it 6-7 hours, make a fire, having some food together. That was really cool. That was really cool. So nice. So now we are more than over 2 hours. My head is so full of information, Anders. It was so amazing. But if you still have something you would like to talk about it or you would like to tell to the community, please feel free. So stage is yours if you want.
Thank you. I think that we've brought in a lot of themes today that is worth exploring even further. I'm particularly passionate about the educational part, and also how you as a sauna master can make a living, and how more sauna masters can do it independently. Because on one hand, I fully support and truly believe in the big spas, and I love collaborating with them. But for freedom, for one's personal lifestyle, there is such a freedom in having a sauna for 20 people, either as a tent or as a mobile sauna, that you can really create a comfortable living for yourself. And I think if more sauna masters knew that there is a way where you can actually do what you love and not kill yourself or burn out in a couple of years, then more would pursue that road, and that would be amazing for the quality of rituals. It would be amazing for the way the guests will understand this ritual in the future also.
Nice. Then I have one last question that I'm asking everyone. So you have your own sauna and there is a screen and you can put a message that everyone can see, every sauna master, every guest. And which message would you like to spread out to the world?
So the first thing that pops into my mind is be yourself. Everybody else is taken.
That's a nice one. Never heard this before. Cool. What should I say, Anders? Thanks so much. I'm sure we will talk again in this podcast one day,
I hope
because I
so.
think you have a lot of more to tell. You have a lot of more to tell, but thanks so much for your time, for everything that you're sharing. I really like if people like be honest, because at the end we are all in one bubble and we all want to reach the same to make some customers happy. and healthy. And yeah, thanks so much. Have a great day. Say hi to Margrethe
Thank
when
you.
you see her. And
I will.
yeah, see you soon, maybe in Denmark someday.
Hopefully.
When I will be there, I will let you know. And yeah, thanks so much.
I will send you a few things. We have this Sauna Master Conference every year, and I think that would be amazing for you to be there. So I'm going to send you a few links and stuff, and let's see if we can get you to Denmark.
Perfect. Yeah, I can also put it in the description. That's a good point. So
yeah,
thanks so much for the moment, and yeah, hear you soon. You've been listening to Steam and Soul, where the heat lingers and the stories stay with you. Until next time, stay steamy, stay soulful.